We're not at war with the public, but we do need to protect ourselves so that we can provide the protection to the public that we are sworn to do.
Since the 1990s, local law enforcement units in the U.S. have received billions of dollars worth of military-grade equipment from the federal government. This has led to heavy artillery and armored vehicles rolling down U.S. streets, leaving some Americans feeling unsettled.
Hello. The idea of the militarization of police is something that I'm sure most of us have encountered in some way. And it's been a topic of hot debate during the last few decades. But what exactly is this looming idea, and how, as Catholics, do we respond to it, especially according to Catholic social teaching?
Well, let's start off with definitions. According to the FBI, police militarization includes agencies changing themselves to follow the principles of the military model. The model the FBI is talking about is the use of armored personnel carriers, assault rifles, submachine guns, flashbang grenades, sniper rifles, and SWAT, which is short for Special Weapons and Tactics Team. In a sense, it is the police acquiring means for more aggressive policing through the use of military equipment.
This development can largely be attributed to the war on terror and the war on drugs. It stems from the fear felt by the majority of the nation concerning terrorism and the abilities of law enforcement. Programs like the 1033 program sought to fix such fear with the allocation of older military equipment to police, although often police possessing this equipment are responding to protests, not terrorism.
Combining this with an already sour perception of police, questions raised about whether or not police should really be trusted with such force, and if it really is okay to use this equipment against citizens. As Catholics, it is important for us to believe the situation fully before applying objective morality to it. So, let's check out some secular stances on it.
To help further our understanding in this, we had an interview with St. Louis Police Commissioner Robert Tracy.
My name is Robert J. Tracy. I'm the Police Commissioner of the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department.
Okay. Thank you for taking the interview. How do you define the militarization of police? And from your experience, how has it changed local law enforcement over time?
Well, quite naturally, you have the military, and the police department's paramilitary. We have same rank structure, same type of rules when it comes to chain of command, and that's what keeps the department, keeps the military working efficiently, and making sure that we can follow policy in the correct way. So, what has changed? I think we've understood how to use militarized styled equipment. And we always got to remember that although we get involved in life and death situations and we have firearms and engage with people that also have firearms, but we actually are guardians, not warriors. But we have to be warriors once in a while. But what I mean by that is guardians is protecting the public, where when you're in the military, you're trained to kill. And when you're in the police department or paramilitary, you're trained to protect. But you have to use deadly force when necessary, so not at every point. So that's building trust with the community and ensuring that we have to take tactical procedures to keep us safe and keep the community safe. But at the same time, we have to make sure that we're protecting people rather than going out and going full-out war.
Chief Tracy just explained some of the key differences and similarities between the military and police force. One of these similarities was their structure, such as their command and discipline. He later builds off this by mentioning that the police's main purpose is to serve as protecting civilians and not serving in combat, referring to the police as guardians and not warriors. This guardian approach is crucial when looking at the definition of policing. The only problem is that sometimes this line between guardian and warrior can be uncertain and unclear. The Harvard Gazette also builds off these ideas by explaining that throughout the U.S., many different communities have encountered police departments with heavy militarized gear, especially when controlling protests or involvement in other dangerous actions. And although this is primarily because the police force is trying to protect the people, it can sometimes create a fear rather than a sense of safety. People in communities that have seen or experienced previous social injustices may view this that way. It can also sometimes be quite the opposite, and police departments lack the military weapons required to protect and prevent violence. It also points to the bigger question, whether they should have access to this equipment, but rather how, when, where, and why they should have it.
So I think you're alluding to this in your point, but Catholic social teaching emphasizes the dignity of human person and the importance of the common good. How do those values play into decision about using military-style equipment or tactics in civilian policing?
Well, when it comes to military equipment and making sure each situation is different, we have to protect ourselves. We use Kevlar coated vehicles. We use protective equipment to make sure we can save ourselves from harm or protect people from harm. But when you are using it, a lot of times we're using the equipment to go in and save people, and we slow things down. And what I call that tactical patience, so that we make sure that we keep the sanctity of life no matter what situation we're in, and we try to protect life, even if that person's a threat from us, because they might have mental health issues or addiction issues, or they might be going through this domestic crisis. So we make sure that we slow things down. We do use military equipment to keep ourselves safe, but at the same time, we try to slow things down instead of going in very quickly, where you would be in the military.
The Catholic Church recognizes the state's role in maintaining order and protecting its citizens. According to the Compendium of the Social Doctrine of the Church, the use of force by law enforcement is permissible, but only as a last resort, and it must always be proportional and just. According to St. John Paul II, in his message to prisoners during the Great Jubilee, John Paul II reminds us that justice must be restorative, not retributive. Everyone, even those accused or imprisoned, has an inherent dignity. A militarized police force, which often views people as threats rather than individuals, stands in contrast to this vision. The Catholic vision of law enforcement is one of service, protection, and dialogue, not domination. Officers are called to be guardians of the common good, not soldiers in a war against their own people.
Okay. So this might also allude to your point, but in the role as police commissioner, how do you ensure that your officers respect community trust while also being prepared for dangerous situations? So maybe protests or other things such as that.
Well, the number one thing is not only being tactical, but you're also part of tactical efficiencies, and also making sure that you're keeping the public safe is building trust. How do you build trust? You build trust by working with the community. You look to build trust by showing respect, neutrality. You listen, you're fair, you do constitutional policing. And when you're doing things like that, the public will respond to that as long as they're being treated fairly and with respect. When we have to take necessary action, understanding the transparency of why we're doing it, explaining the situations as quickly as possible through the press, but at the same time protecting our officers as they tactically go in and use this type of equipment, but never take anyone's dignity away. The thing that when people are calling us, they're in their worst time of their lives, and or they might be committing crimes. But when they're in the worst times of their lives, once it's over, once we make sure that we have the situation resolved, we want to make sure that we're treating people with respect, and those are the lowest points of their life, continue to make sure that they keep their dignity. And that follows the values of any good organization, never mind a Catholic school organization. It's about the human being and seeing them as a human being. And we in policing, when we continue to do that, we have a better outcome in the long run. And there's no way we can have success without having community trust and long-term sustainable success, whether we're using military equipment for crisis situations and or every day making sure we're engaging with the community. And that way we'll have better outcomes for the city, and actually it helps with public safety. And that's called police legitimacy and procedural justice.
As Catholics, can we and should we support a process such as militarization of police? Well, yes, but of course it is never that simple. As we heard from Ben, John, and Commissioner Tracy, respecting human dignity is of the utmost importance in policing. The fear with the militarization of police is that, in some way, the dignity of civilians will not be respected. Fortunately, with training, good leadership, and positive relationships, this possibility can be minimized. In all, there is nothing wrong with the provisions of military equipment to police departments, as long as the proper precautions are taken by departments to respect human dignity. In fact, the greater ability granted to police can help further protect officers from dangerous situations and give them the time and confidence to assure that the dignity of everyone they interact with is being respected.